As cities across the country try to force landlords to accept Section 8 tenants, one landlord in Ohio is the perfect example of why many landlords don't want anything to do with the program. I'm Tony, and this is Real Estate Investing and Landlord News. All right, so I have an interesting article for you today, and it's about a topic that I've covered before, and it's about Section 8, okay? And specifically, Section 8 tenants and cities that are trying to force landlords to accept Section 8 by writing it into a law that says, hey, there's no what they call source of income discrimination, right? So what their logic is that if they say, well, you have to take a Section 8 tenant because their source of income, you can't discriminate against it. But there's a lot of reasons why landlords don't want to take Section 8 tenants. Like they don't want to have to deal with the government bureaucracy. They don't want to have to deal with inspections. And many of them, they can't even, get the market rate rent for their unit from the Section 8 tenants. So yeah, there's reasons why landlords don't want to take these tenants. And one of the reasons is that a lot of Section 8 tenants are very, very rough on properties, right? And so in this article, it's actually going over a tenant who just trashed this landlord's property to the point where this landlord doesn't want anything to do with Section 8 ever again, okay? And experiences like this is why so many landlords, they probably tried to work with the program at one point and then they changed their mind after having to deal with situations like this. This is what they don't see. This is why a lot of landlords just don't want to have to deal with it. Now, you'll have to forgive me today. I'm a little bit hot. I just came in from my run, so I'm sweating a little bit. And, it was a good run, but, it's time to get back into the real estate. Now, before I get into the article, though, go ahead, hit the like and subscribe button. Maybe leave a comment down below and let me know, have you had a bad experience with a Section 8 tenant, okay? Like, have you had a Section 8 tenant who trashed your property or refused to pay their small portion of the rent? Or maybe you had a bad experience with the local housing authority and getting paid and taking longer than necessary to get paid, or, something ridiculous happening with all of the bureaucracy or inspections or whatever, Just let me know your experience down in the comments. So, this article is coming from news5cleveland.com, and it says, Northeast Ohio landlords call for more CMHA tenant accountability. Yeah, let's see what this says, okay? Michael Shorter is a Cleveland landlord who reports he's now been left with more than $40,000 in repairs to his rental home after tenants receiving Section 8 HUD rental assistance abandoned his home in January, causing prolific damage. Shorter said he contacted the Cuyahoga Metropolitan Housing Authority in February to report the rogue renters, but told News 5 he was given little help. CMHA and the directors, it seems like they were turning a deaf ear and a blind eye to my situation, Shorter said. When I walked in here, I was just really disappointed because I really gave my heart to that family. So yeah, right from the get-go, $40,000 worth of damage to this property. That is a ridiculous amount, okay? And we're not talking about a super expensive cost of living area. This is Cleveland, Ohio, okay? So this isn't like, we're going and we're dealing with $1 million homes down in Southern California, okay? This is a much less expensive area. So to do $40,000 worth of damage, you had to just rip that place apart. And then, he goes and he's trying to deal with the local housing authority, the people who are administering the Section 8 program, and they are ignoring him. They are not giving him the attention he needs and trying to deal with the situation. Okay. And that is so frustrating. Okay. When you have to deal with these local housing authorities and the bureaucracy and the, ignoring your phone calls or putting you on hold for hours on end just so you can get paid. It doesn't benefit a landlord when they can go and they can get a market rate tenant, all right, and put them in there in your unit and not have to deal with any of this nonsense. All the pipes busted in the house and the upstairs. The floors are buckled up and everything, and there's water damage all throughout the house. From the first week, they were tearing up the stairs, and as they were moving in, they tore the door frame off. Landlord Association leader Ben Rosalowski told News 5 CMHA is in the process of trying to provide landlords who accept Section 8 vouchers with more resources. He said more than a year ago, CMHA launched a mobility and landlord outreach coordinator to help with tenant issues, but Rosalowski believes that position needs additional staffing hours. Yeah, wow. So, wow, what it sounds like happened is there was either the heat wasn't on in the house. Okay, so when it got cold, all the pipes burst, right? After the pipes burst, that caused all of the water damage in the house. And so, yeah, I could see $40,000. If you have to fix a huge plumbing issue, huge amount of water damage issue, yeah, that could be 40. Man, that's insane. But all because the tenants in the house either weren't paying the heating bill, weren't responding to the landlord's calls. And, you know, these are garbage tenants that this guy ended up with. And unfortunately, now he has to deal with all this damage. And he's never going to get that money back, okay? I don't know how Section 8 housing works up here in the Cleveland area, but I don't think that they're going to cover that much damages from a Section 8 tenant sitting in the property. I don't know for sure, though. Maybe the article says. Rosalowski said CMHA must reduce the time it takes to process requests for tenancy approval, or RFTAs. He said, too often, Section 8 landlords and tenants are left waiting to fulfill critical housing needs. We've seen 45 to 90 days for some landlords, and we must address this. This cannot take that long. We're leaving people on the street, Rosalowski said. CMHA needs to get involved somehow with a move-out inspection and transfer of possession. That seems to be the biggest critical issue. And I think if tenants were held accountable, it would be better. Yeah, so there we go right there. The process is super slow. It says right there, it takes 45 to 90 days to get all the approvals and everything to get a tenant in a property. Meanwhile, if I go to a market rate tenant, I can get them in there in a couple weeks. Okay? I can put my thing on the market. I gotta have them in there next week if we just hurry up with the paperwork, okay? I mean, there's no reason for it to be taking 45 to 90 days. Why do you think, a landlord wants to go 2 or 3 months additional without getting paid the rent that they're owed, just so that they can deal with all of these Section 8, extra Section 8 issues, okay? And, I agree they also need a move-out inspection process. They have a move-in inspection process, but when a tenant moves out, I think that they should have somebody out there to say, hey, we're going to hold you, the tenant, accountable for the damage that this place is in. When you moved in, this place was in good condition. We know because we inspected it before you moved in. But now when you're moving out, why is this place completely torn apart? And if the place is completely torn apart, then we're going to hold you as the tenant accountable. But they don't do that. No, they just want the landlords to just take the loss or whatever, okay? Gosh, I actually have Section 8 tenants, but it is frustrating reading stuff like this, okay? Rosalowski is also calling for a 24-hour emergency inspection option for housing providers when lease violations are obvious, and hold participants accountable with proposals for termination. He also believes CMHA should open termination hearings to the public and have housing provider participation with evidence. So yeah, that's a good point right there. And this is something else, okay? If you're going to be terminated from the program, we should be involved, okay? And especially if there's a huge lease violation and we're trying to get you out of our property and we don't want, why should you be eligible for Section 8? And we're up here, we're bringing evidence that you done torn our place apart, and then you're just going to move on to the next place and still get more Section 8, more government housing assistance, and tear it up too? I mean, come on here. This is so ridiculous, okay? But this is the problem with this program. This is the reason why so many landlords, they just don't want to participate, and I can't blame them. So let's see what else this article says. It says, Wade said improvements are being made in reducing the turnaround time for requests for tenancy approval, and said additional resources are on the way to help his landlord outreach coordinator give more assistance to landlords dealing with problem tenants. We have to find additional resources to staff it more, Wade said. At the same time, renters need to be aware of their responsibilities as a tenant. So yeah, it's a big problem, this whole affordable housing issue. And the solution, the government solution, obviously was these Section 8 vouchers. And now they're trying to force these Section 8 vouchers on the landlords who just don't want to have to deal with it. But unfortunately, a lot of landlords, they are getting the short end of the stick, okay? They are dealing with horrible amounts of bureaucracy. They're dealing with long waiting periods before they get their first check or before a tenant is able to move in. They're dealing with ridiculous inspections causing them to fix stuff that, that is not necessary to fix. They're dealing with tenants who are moving out and tearing stuff up, but not being held accountable for that. I mean, landlords who are just trying to make the money, keep their properties operating and don't want to have to deal with this mess, they shouldn't have to. And this is exactly why these ridiculous laws that are source of income, all that, they shouldn't even exist.